We all have a purpose. There is a warrior inside of you. It's time to share the awakening of your warrior. Don't ignore your magic if it's there. All of us together, sharing our truths and our stories will unlock the puzzle key. I can't wait to embark on this powerful journey, to share and heal with all of you. We all have trauma, things that are hard to speak about. We've felt broken, lost loved ones, felt alone, and wondered what's next. What's important is we get up and we share these stories, the things that kept us going and helped lead us to our success. The divine does believe everything happens for a reason. Share your moments, your story, and your passion for why. Together we will heal in love. I am Megan Bryan, and this is Moments with Me, Island Sweetheart. Hi, Island Warriors. We are here with Gabrielle, my other half. Honestly, we grew up together. Our story is crazy, actually. So we are here at Sage. Sage is a very magical place for me. We're going to be using Sage for a few videos, and you will hear more about it in our next couple videos. Gabrielle and I go way back, and life has brought us around and then back around, and we were definitely meant to be in each other's lives. And she is one of my favorite people on the island, actually. She is intelligent, yeah, and smart and beautiful. But today, Gabby is interviewing me. We got together a couple months ago, and I was just talking about everything I was doing, all these projects, and da-da-da-da, and she was like, I was like, and she was like, you need someone to interview, and I was like, yeah. So she's gonna dive into me. I have no idea what she's gonna ask me. This is for you guys. I don't know, some of you guys have asked questions in the past, and it needed to be from an outside standpoint and point of view. And there is no one better than Gabby to dive that deep for me. So here we are. Gabby, you can take the floor. I am here to answer all your hard and exciting and challenging questions that you have for me.
Thank you. That was such a beautiful introduction. Well, I guess the only way to start this story is from the beginning. So if you could tell us from the beginning, just a synopsis of how your life started and where you are today.
Sure. So I was born and raised in the beautiful Virgin Islands, specifically the island of St. Thomas. This is home. I have traveled and moved many times. I've lived in Florida, Long Island, New York, California. I've lived in Alaska. I have traveled quite a bit. I love traveling, but I always choose to come back home. It is, just a place where I feel like I'm meant to be and that my magic is meant to help others. But I do love traveling, but this is definitely home base for me. I've gone to several different schools and I've studied quite a few things. I did elementary in both Florida and here. And then I have also done middle school in Florida and here. And then I went to 5 different high schools, being in both Florida, Long Island, New York, and coming back to St. Thomas. So just to give that kind of summary and summing up, of course, I could dive deeper into any of those. Just to give that synopsis. Anything I could dive in deeper?
Yeah, maybe if we could go into your childhood a little bit. What was your childhood like? First of all, it sounded like you moved around a lot.
I did.
So what was your childhood like in terms of moving around?
Sure. So I'm an only child. I didn't really have any brothers and sisters, but I am super close to my cousins. And also my friends are like my siblings to me. I think anyone I get close to, I just adopt them as a sibling. I'm like, nope, you're my sister. Oh, you're my brother. Like, you don't know it, but I signed you up already. But yeah, I lived here up until about 5. And then when it was time for me to go to kindergarten, I think my parents were like, the States is gonna be the best place for Megan. So went to Florida. My dad is a true island man, and he definitely, I think, felt more at home here and wanted to show me the island life. And we ended up traveling back and forth, me and my dad a lot more. And eventually my dad was like, I'm moving back. My parents went through their ups and downs, and my mom and me stayed there. And then shortly after, she got back here with me, and I had a good part of my childhood here. Probably about second grade, I moved back to the States, and I went to school again in Florida, different school. My mom had some illnesses that she, was working throughout her life. They weren't intense at that point, but we did travel a bit for it. And I think it caused just some challenges between my parents. They were both very similar. Their birthdays were 2 days apart. They were also air signs, both Geminis, and they just had this really crazy, first of all, Geminis are twins. They're two different people. So they were like 5 people having a conversation together. I say 5, I just threw extra.
So you had a full house, even though you were the only child.
Yeah, and I would just sit there and be like, okay. But, I'm thankful for it. I learned so much from all their personalities. And then for middle school, I moved around to quite a few different schools, but I mostly stayed on the island. And then high school, my freshman year, I went to school here at Charlotte Amalie. And then when my mom got more sick, I chose to go with her and help her. She was in the process of getting a new liver, and that is a long process for any of those of you who know someone or have gone through it, and you're helping someone through it. You have to get on a list, you have to go through all these things, it would have to be a match. So it was a long journey of us traveling for her to even come close to getting on the list and it hopefully being a match. And they gave her 2 months. My freshman year, I missed a lot of school, and I think all my teachers just thought I was this little Frenchy island girl who skipped with the bad boys, and that was not the case. I was going through a lot, and really I wanted to be focused in my education, but they say that when you make plans, God laughs because he has his own plan, but yeah. I do not, fail to plan. I plan to succeed, and I try to go with that. So with that being said, I went to school in Florida. My mom came and she did everything she could to get to where she needed to be in her health. She made a lot of lifestyle changes, the way she cooked, the way she ate. She became very natural. She was walking all the time, and she missed home. St. Thomas became her home. She's from Boston, Massachusetts. And she came back, and I had just switched high schools again, and I was like, no, Mommy, I am not going. I am going to stay here in Florida with Grandma. They say I can stay, so she left. I did my sophomore year in Florida. They built a new school right next to me, so I was just kind of all over the place. Came back for spring break in the summers, and when I did come back, my mom's health declined. She had went from being way down to having 2 months to live to shooting up and being so healthy, and then rapidly going back down. And it just, was such a crucial point in going into upperclassmen junior, senior year. So I had this family who was my aunt by marriage, married to my uncle, my dad's brother. And they heard my story, and they're like, we'll take Megan in, and we are gonna give her a home, and we're gonna help her focus on her studies and all the things that she wants to do, because this is not her fault, and she needs to be where she wants to be, and she can't do that with all the trauma that's happening around her. So I got on a plane and I went to Long Island. I had went to visit a few times with my aunt and uncle, and this other family took me in, and they quickly became my family, and I had brothers and sisters. I lived in this beautiful home in Long Island. I had a water park in my backyard. I had a zip line. I was going to the Sweet 16s you see on MTV. Wow. And I had just come from this small rock. They'd take me into the city, and I'd see these huge buildings, and I'd be like, this is not life. And I think they were just like, this girl's annoying. Like, she's just so thrilled by everything. But they just thought it was a joke. Like, it really, it's just two different lifestyles. And I think they helped me in more ways than they will ever know. And my Uncle John, he would always tell me, you're helping us too, you're humbling us, and you're bringing this excitement, and so that really gave me a feeling to push myself again. And then I came back for the summer, my junior year, and I ended up staying, and I was so lucky enough that they paid for me to go to private school my senior year. My parents were too sick. My dad had stopped working to help my mom and really focused on that. So my senior year, I went to All Saints, and I stayed. I, got involved. They're like, you could have a car, you could go to school. And I was like, no, my education, I'm gonna go to the best college and da 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 da. And my mom did get better. She, lived out long after the timeline that the doctors tried to give her. Thank God I didn't think she'd make it to my senior year, and she definitely did. And so, yeah, I applied to all these schools. I started to get some scholarships, and then my mom got more sick, and she passed away in 2014. So I graduated in 2012. I was going to go away to college, and I knew her health. I had already left her my sophomore year, my junior year, and she chose to stay here. Here is where she wanted to be, and thinking back now, I don't blame her at all. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to hold any grudges or anything against her. This is her life path. I just want to be with her. And it was a hard journey, but I needed to be by her side. She spent a lot of those last years in and out the hospital. Her journeys in the hospital started to get longer, and her time at home started to become shorter. And every time she'd go, it was a longer time in the hospital, and every time she came home, if she was home for 3 weeks, next time it was 2 weeks and 5 days, and then it was 2 weeks and 4 days, and it declined down, and it got to a point where they didn't even, visiting hours didn't apply. They're like, you just come and go as you please. I was there for Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, just sitting with my mom. She was in and out of a coma for a while, and I said all the things to her that I probably should have said when she was awake, and there were times she would just wake up out of her coma and grab me, or my dad would walk in, she wouldn't even know he was in the room, and she'd be like, Matthew, get out of here. And I'd be like, but she's asleep, and the nurses were like, we can't explain. And her health declined, and the doctors were, calling us in. They were gonna airlift her, and they got to a point where we had a meeting. My grandma came in, her sister, her twin sister, everyone came in, and they're like, there is nothing keeping this woman alive. She should not be here. And we're like, okay, what do we do? We're gonna airlift her. And before we plan to airlift her, she wakes up and she's all better one day. She's just sitting, and I if anyone's lost someone really close to them who has suffered because of an illness, you might be able to relate to this. But she just shined. She's like, well, why am I here? Well, why am I in the hospital? She was a little delusional from all the morphine we were doing to keep her off the pain. And it was a sign as you go, because it does slow your breathing and that type of thing. And it was just me and my dad, really. And I got to a point where I had to stop working. The nurses would call, her breathing was slowing, and I'd rush to the hospital, and I got to a point I just was like, I just need to be there. That's where I need to be. And everything in my life fell apart, but I knew I just needed to be by her side, and I'd figure out the rest later. And she did shine. She had 1-2 days where she was, awake, and when she finally did go back to sleep, I was like, it's okay to let go. Let go. You're suffering so much. And she had 2 last things she said to me. I was like, I'm not going unless you come with me. I swear to God, she was serious. But, she just loved me that much, I think. And there's nothing like a mother's love. And now that I'm a mother, I really freaking get that. That's an extension of yourself. When they say it's your heart walking outside your body, I get it. She knew that I was going to have a daughter. I have no idea how. And she asked for a calendar, so I connect with her and all these crazy signs, but definitely through time and space and calendars. And I have a different way with my dad, but I didn't go see her for the last 3 days, and I think it's because multiple reasons, but I wanted her to let go. And that was really hard for me. And there was a time in my life I would be like, I don't regret it, I regret it, I don't regret it, I regret it. And I would go back and forth, and now I'm like, it doesn't matter, because it's the choice that was made. Mm-hmm. And at that time, I made it for a reason. And I had got to the edge of my bed, and I was gonna go, and it's when the phone rang. So, yeah, fast forward a little bit, got back into my career and work and jewelry and modeling and dancing and doing all these side hustles that us entrepreneurs do. And fell in love and went on the whim to Alaska and worked there for a couple summers in jewelry, traveled a lot, and my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And then I found out a month after that I was pregnant with my daughter Liliana. I had her, came back here. the hurricanes hit. And you know, tragedy really does bring out the worst in people. Her father and I ended up splitting. We are both just different people, great parents to Liliana, and we, you know, agree when it comes to her that we want the best. And now I'm on a journey of healing not just myself, but I think others who need the help in the story, because it does take a village. You know, I didn't have siblings. It really is the community around me, the friends and the cousins and the random people on the street who give you a smile when you don't even know what's 5 feet in front of you. So I was very lucky to have this island community, and I'm really glad I chose to come back home and raise my daughter here and make her this little island warrior that she truly is. Yeah. That was a lot, I know. I tried to some side it, you know, whatever I could.
I feel like you did a good job going through from beginning and then going through some of the hardships that you've had to face. I feel compelled to tell you though that I think that this is a beautiful lesson for people on the outside hearing this story, because as someone who was not in the intricacies of what was happening in your life, I had no idea. And most people, you know, like most children, most teenagers aren't at their parents' sickbed and aren't having to go to school and have all of this insurmountable pressure. And I can't imagine what that felt like, and to have to go through it alone, because it's not like you even have a sibling that you can talk to and shoulder the burden with. And so I think that it's so important to just be kind, because you just don't know what people are going through, and you don't know what they've had to do in order to get to where they are, and you don't know what they have to do to just get up out of bed in the mornings. So, you know, like, touche, sister. Like,
thank you.
You've overcome so much.
There was definitely a lot of lessons learned there, but one of the things I think I would share is that you have to learn to be your own best friend. Yeah. And it's okay to be alone. It's okay to cry alone. It's okay to pick yourself up. It's not always everyone else's journey. Sometimes something really is just meant for you. That's why you can't judge anyone else's journey. I am completely a person who never judges. I kind of reset myself if I find myself going in that mind route. But also, it's okay to reach out to people, because like you said, they'll never even know. And you know, you act a certain way to try to hide the fear, and people think you're cocky or you're a certain way, and it's like, you don't even, I'm just trying to put my glasses on and get through the day and drive, you know, and people really have no idea. Not for me, I'm talking on a grand scheme of people. You really have no idea what anyone is going through at any particular moment in time. So really it is just be kind, you know?
Find compassion for sure. So I wanted to kind of look at a certain part of your life with a microscope, just so that way we can see what that was like for you. And it is the moment where, what was that moment like when your mom has passed away and your dad has passed away and you're pregnant? How does one handle that?
Someone told me something while I was pregnant at my dad's memorial service. So my dad actually passed when I was pregnant. He died the day before my gender reveal party, and I couldn't go into the cancer the center of, you know, for him to heal through his chemo, because there's radiation and things like that. When you're pregnant, it could affect, they say, the fetus, but the baby. And that was really hard for me. I remember I would drop him off and I would just drive around crying and wait, like drive back, and he wasn't ready yet. And I remember just picking up one time on the edge of the sidewalk, and he was so limp. And my dad, I was taller than both my parents, but was always a strong guy. We'd go camping, he'd climb up the tree and tie up the tarp. We'd go fishing, he'd have all these lobsters in his hand. And to see him so weak, and my parents were not old when they passed. My mom was 51. My dad died 3 years later. They were a year apart, and my dad was 53. And they, funny enough, I'm very careful now with what I say out loud and even my thoughts. I said when my mom passed, I think my dad will live 3 years. I have no idea why I said it. I don't know if it's something I felt. I don't know if it was just, you know, a thought or a prediction, or I have no idea, but it really was 3 years. and I felt really alone. And at this memorial service, people go, how are you doing? They were like, happy birthday, by the way. I'm so sorry for your loss. Congratulations on the baby, because I was away, you know, and I came back and my dad was sick and I had been traveling in Asia and Hong Kong and Thailand, and I was in Europe and Paris. And when I came back, it was everything at once. And I was kind of, you know, in and out of the relationship stuff and moving and deciding where we wanted to live. And I knew I just wanted to be here. And someone came to me, and I think it's someone in our Frenchy family, you know, somewhere. And I was like, you know, I have moments where I feel really alone when this one's at work, my friends can't pick up their phone, everyone's working, and I really want to be working, and I'm just home with this baby. I'm trying to go through my dad's stuff. I'm trying to get ready for the new house. And they were like, you're not alone. You have her right there. And I really feel like divinity, like I lost my mom and I had my dad, and I grew even closer to my dad in those years. And I mean, my parents were together. They had moments where they separated, but they loved each other so much. And I'm lucky for that, even though they fought like cat and dog. They were true to who they were. I had him, and it's so funny that when he got diagnosed with cancer, I had actually already been pregnant when I think back about it. And I found out I was pregnant 1 month later. And I think the universe did something there where it's like, it immediately took my my focus. It was like, I threw my own baby shower. My family thought I was crazy, and I was like, I'm just gonna throw it into events. I love doing events anyways. We're gonna have a carnival, da 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 da. I need to order this. And I mean, how I dealt with my mother's death and how I dealt with my father's death was completely different. You know, I would cry to my dad, but then I didn't even want to, because I didn't want to hurt him and see his daughter cry. And I know he'd look at me and I look like her, and you know, and they had no other children, like it was just me. So it was even hard. He wouldn't even go with me to put the ashes down. One night my grandfather was like, you need to go and you just need to do it. He's passed too, my grandfather. I was very close to him, and I was living with him when my mom passed. And yeah, it was just very hard on my dad, you know. And within all of this happening in these years, my grandfather passed and my dad's little brother passed, all within this very short period of time. And they say death comes in threes. This came in like 5, 6s. And it was very hard on my family. And you know, it doesn't matter how old you are, death is hard. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter, you know, just because you think, oh, it doesn't mean you're closer to your mom because you come from your mom or your dad or your brother if you lost a significant other or child. Like, no one can say, because our relationships with every single person in our life is really different. But I just chose to focus on the positive because I knew how much I had lost. And what I wish I had was more pictures and more videos of them talking and them sharing their stories. I mean, we used to camp and they would talk, and I'd be like, okay. But now I have Liliana, and all I could do is preach to her. And I'm like, Liliana, da 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 da. And I just want to give her all these messages of life. And every birthday I do a video for her and I try to leave a message. And I mean, it's really pushed me. I've pulled from that pain and I said, well, what is this, you know, what is this meant to do for me? Why did this happen to me? How can I use it? And having someone, other people who hurt, but definitely having a daughter, really, I think God, the universe, time and space, they were like, you're not gonna be alone. So even though I felt alone, it was telling myself that you're not alone. And even if you're not pregnant and you go through something like that, like, you are not alone. I mean, so many people feel alone, and all you have to do is just ask, just go outside. Sometimes I walk in the stage just to see Gabby. Like, you're not alone. You're not alone. If you think you're alone, I go on YouTube and I just listen to these speeches and these talks, and I'm like, yeah, everybody's like, no one's alone. Like, we feel so alone, but there's so many people who want to go sit with you and just have breakfast, and it doesn't have to be anything. You don't have to. Sometimes I FaceTime people while I'm just eating, like, just don't let me eat alone. Yeah, that's what I took from that.
Wow. I feel like the universe took with one hand and gave with the next. Mm-hmm. And if you are someone who believes that children choose their parents, your daughter chose you at that point in time.
I say thank you for choosing
and
me.
if that doesn't make you like hold that little girl tight.
Ooh, she's an air sign too.
Yeah, I love that.
Just like my parents are both Geminis.
The synchronicities
she's
are just
a Gemini.
fabulous.
I mean, it's crazy. It's like the divinity is unreal.
Yeah,
it's
that's
unreal.
God's love.
Yeah, totally.
So since having your daughter, how has forming that connection with your child helped to heal some of that early childhood trauma of having, you know, like a sick parent, and then later on losing both parents within a short succession?
I read something a while back, and it said, be the person you needed when you were little. And sometimes I tell her things and I'm so stern, and I'm training her to be independent because I'm independent. And, you know, I'm a single mom now, so it's just really like having all my P's and Q's. We got to go here at a certain time, and I'm very busy, and da 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 da. And I'll just be like, Liliana, and I'll catch myself and be like, Liliana, mommy is so sorry. She is such a passionate little girl. She'll put me in check and in place every time. She's like, you do not speak to me like that. You need to. And I'm just like, you are absolutely right. Like, it's just checking and rechecking yourself, you know.
Absolutely.
We're human. We're not perfect. It's just because you're a mother doesn't mean you automatically get this spell casted over you that you don't dress this way anymore. You don't talk this way. And I think there's this stigma that needs to be killed off. You know, we're all humans, you know. There are people who have kids really young and they're best friends with their parents. They party with their parents. They travel with their parents. They open businesses with them. And I so see me and Liliana doing that. I think we're already doing it in everything that we're doing. It's like, you know, and I ask her, it's just really like, what did I learn what not to do from my journey? How can I teach her? How can I, you know, I push myself on the healthy food. Sometimes you break from that. You know, it's just, okay, you push yourself, but you bring yourself right back and recheck yourself and be like, how can I do better tomorrow? I always try to be better than the person I was yesterday. And honestly, I asked her, I realized, even though she's young, she's 3 now, if I tell her no, straight fit, upset, why? But if I give her a reason, she'll think about it, she'll contemplate it, she might ask a few questions, and then she'll be like, okay, mommy, and then she'll explain something to me. So because da-da-da, and I'll be like, yes. And that's it. She's okay with it. Yeah. It's really like treat, you know, her daycare, actually, the motto is kids are people too. So I just treat her like a person. She's small, but she's beyond her years. I've had so many people tell me she's an old soul, and I'm like, I know. Where she may be older than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that sounds so beautiful. And the connection and just listening to your daughter and being a parent, but also being a parent that apologizes or a parent that course corrects when it's necessary.
Yeah, being a young mom.
Kudos to that, for sure.
It's, I get to do so much fun things with her. But it's like, okay, well, you're young, but she's always watching, you know, just careful what you know, and explain to them if they want to know, explain to them. Let kids be kids, but, you know, tell her what it is that she needs to understand, because if she asks a question, who am I to hold her back from that knowledge when she's ready to accept it? Yeah. Of course, you know, in boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know that you're in here in Sage very often, and I know that you've mentioned God throughout as a pivotal point and a very important pillar in your life, throughout your life, and leaning on God. When do you think your spiritual journey began?
That's a really great question. I think I was always different as a child among my friends, even my cousins. You know, I was the one who believed in other lives and would pick up stones. And I mean, I was already different because, you know, going to school and this bright orange hair and these freckles, and I was already different, but that was fine. Like, I didn't mind, you know? I didn't want to be like anybody else. But my mom was really open-minded, and so was my dad. You know, I'd be like, well, what's the difference between Democrat and Republic? And my dad, like, it doesn't matter what if I tell you I'm a Democrat or Republic. Study it and make your own decision. You could say you don't even da-da-da, and I would be like, I'm so happy that that's the way I was raised. Because had I not been, I could have been a really different person. Yeah. And that's what I'm teaching Liliana, is to make your own choices. She's half Indian, and I respect that religion and culture and try to immerse her in it, and, you know, dress her in outfits and send her with her aunts and uncles and study it and buy her books on it and learn a little bit myself to immerse her and dress up with her, go to the balls and do what I can. Because I really do, I respect all religions. I personally think they are all really connected on a larger level. Absolutely. But I think believing in, you know, it doesn't matter what you believe in. If you believe in something and that's helping you, stick to that. No, there's no one who could tell you that's wrong or that's right. If you believe in something, that's okay, you know, because there is something more. There's just knowing that there's something more. If you just sit there and you're like, well, I don't know, this is what happened, and you just meditate on that, it's not going to get you anywhere. But I've realized by believing and then studying those beliefs, the places it has took me, the places I have gone, the people I have met, and the clarity I have received, I mean, there's just not even words to explain it. There are experiences that there literally aren't human words to explain. So all the time, I think I push that, is just believing in something and, you know, not judging. And for me, it is spirituality. And some people say the universe, some people say God, some people have different names for their God depending on their religions. And I think of it of all the same when people talk, and I'm like, yeah. So I think from a kid I was very spiritual. But I definitely think my trauma was, you know, my awakening. What do I hold on to? I think I'm more spiritual lately. You know, having a daughter, being single, COVID, the hurricanes a couple of years back, I think it's like, well, why? And the answers are deep within. They're not everywhere else. And sometimes when you go out is when you become closer to yourself. I think that's why I love traveling. And yeah, so I think I've always been on that spiritual. I just knew I was different. I knew there's more. It's more than this earth and this time and space we feel confined to.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of what kind of shadow work have you had to do within yourself in terms of eradicating dysfunctional like thought patterns and behaviors that are not serving you and may not be serving the people around you? Like, what have those been, and how have you been able to overcome and redirect yourself?
This is gonna sound weird, and I don't know if it's the proper way to answer the question, but I'm gonna go with it.
Okay.
For me, it's talking about all the hard things. If it brings tears, if it's ugly, it's going back and rereading old things I've written down, watching old pictures, thinking about those patterns, and being like, well, what can I change? And I was wild. I had a time where I was too passionate, maybe. I don't know if that's a thing, but I would just I would go crazy, and I realized that I'm not that person anymore. I was like, this doesn't even deserve my energy. And I don't know how I'm doing it. I'm not saying it's not hard, and I'm not saying like within myself I'm not battling.
Yeah.
But it's setting boundaries. It's like, well, if you're gonna treat me like this, or if this energy is bad, just remove yourself. Just remove yourself, and you can. We are so powerful. You know, some people are like, I'm just stuck. And it's like, you can literally at any time just change your direction and your focus, you know. And I watch my friends and my family and even my own life, and like I look around now, I'm like, I asked for all of this, maybe not in this way, but I look at my daughter's room and I was like, I had sketched it out months before, and then I have it, and I, you know, look at the things and the people I had wanted to get closer to, and it's like, it is all possible. I was drawn. It's my tribe. It's paying attention to those things, and, you know, hearing your calling, not listening so much just with your ears, but listening with your insides, your soul. What is, you know, my intuition has been so thick lately. Like, I can almost say something, and on the moment it's like, and people are like, Megan. And it's really thinking and speaking and setting the boundaries and cutting your thought patterns and being like, no. Thank you, universe. That was an evil, dark thought. I'll see what I can take from it. But I know what I don't want now. And just sending it back and saying thank you. Because even the dark can be beautiful, you know. But
absolutely,
it is shadow work in a way. Just thinking about it and then letting it go and not meditating on it and not questioning so deep. Just being like, oh, okay, that's what that could be.
Absolutely.
But then focusing on what you do want. You know, I hear so many people say, I can't. And oh, this keeps happening. And I'm like, you're coming from a place of lack. Therefore, you keep seeing lack, you know. And I do it all the time too, and I'm like, oh, well, now this just happened. Like, understand we're on earth, we're not in heaven yet, you know, or whatever your heaven is. Things are gonna happen. I hit my car the other day. I got a flat tire. I went on a trip and I got this huge unexpected bill when I got back. I paid a bill and I got a call that it was wrong. They unquoted me, and I have to figure that out. And things are gonna happen. There's nothing you can do about that. What you can do is you can control yourself. And it really is how you deal with those things. I think it's my favorite quote. I don't even know who it's by. And I just always refer back to it, and I don't know the exact way it says, but it says you can really tell a lot about a person by these 3 things. And it's like the way they deal with tangled Christmas lights, and the way and it's just 3 things. And I'm like, gosh, it's so simple, but it's true. Like, you can take your time, put on some music and get some hot cocoa and untangle the Christmas lights. So you could like, screw this, I'm gonna buy a new one. Everyone has their way of dealing with something, and that's okay. But there are gonna be the people who save money. There are gonna be the people who laugh and listen to a story while they untangle. You know, they're gonna be the people who, on the way to buy the Christmas lights, they pay the person in front of them, lunch or behind of them. And it's just really, you know, how you deal with things in this life, shifting your perception and your perspective. It's everything, and you can get so much more out of it when you're like, wow, I dealt with that good. I'm so proud of myself, and I'm so happy that I chose to go that way. And I'll tell you, even recently, like, I've noticed that doing that has paid off, because it's rewarding in the way that if something happens and I chose to deal with it in a positive way, even though someone could be so rude to me, it could be someone I know, it could be a stranger, I've later had them, it could be weeks, it could be years, it could be in the same day. All 3 have happened. And someone will come back to me and say, you know what, thank you, or you were right, or I was wrong to come at you that way. And I'm like, gosh, because I chose to meet them with positivity, even though they were angry. It takes nothing to be kind and light. And I could meet them with that excessive anger, and sometimes I do. Sometimes, you know what, enough's enough, and you do gotta stand up for yourself. But if you can choose love more, it is for you, but sometimes you can really help someone else, and they might treat the next person better. And if we could just raise the whole vibration that way, this new golden age is gonna be
fabulous.
People they don't think it's possible because they've never known it. It's not. Yeah. It's been, we'll be nicer, you know, but it's really a time where when you think you can see, and if we can control ourselves in self-love, we can love other people to such an extent that this darkness can't even come in, because the light is so bright, you know.
What a transformative concept. Just be a good person.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
You try. All you can do is try your best. It takes practice.
It's true.
I'll on a forever healing journey. You know, that's what this whole warrior movement is about. And it's not just about me. It's about my brothers and my sisters. We're all connected, healing as a whole. You know, how can I walk past someone and see them sad? How can I know someone's broken and just be like, all right, well, call me when you're ready to hang out? That's not how that goes. You know, it's like, well, let me hear your story. And that's why they say talking about it really does help. You know,
Absolutely.
Sharing your story can be so powerful. So as hard as it is, I think that's why I chose this.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Gabby.
And I think you answered it so well. So I have one last question, because I know that I've been here, like, you know, rattling off questions to you.
I'm just, trying to answer the best extent. I go off a little bit.
I think you're doing fabulous.
Thank you.
My last question is, if your daughter was to watch this interview in 20 years, what would you want her to know right now?
Good question.
Thank you.
I always tell Liliana, and she already knows this, that she is a warrior. She really is. I mean, she was born and a hurricane hit, and she went through COVID. She's 3. We've moved several times. And I mean, I think from pictures and videos, everyone thinks on the outside our life is perfect. But like, I just posted a video yesterday, and it was her like crying, and I'm just like, outside, I'm like, you ready? And she's like, And then she cried a little bit more. Then we told the camera, got in the car, and I called her later after, and I was like, it was her dad's turn to pick her up. I'm like, you doing okay? You had a good day? And she's like, yeah, mommy. And it's like, okay. And it's just like showing, like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to be sad. Like, it's not okay for me to be like, stop crying. And sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, fine, be crying, but let's move. Let's still put your shoes on while you're crying.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to slow down and be like, look, I'm gonna be 15 minutes late today. My 3-year-old's having a meltdown, and I'm doing this all by myself. And I'm not, but in the sense of in that time, you know?
Yeah.
I hate to say that, because there are people who really, you know, don't have any help, and I'm lucky to have the village I have, even though my parents aren't here. But I would want to tell her, and I want her to see that you can really do anything you put your mind to. From now to 20 years, the world is going to change so much. I went through so much in 20 years. And I think that we are the person ourselves who get in the way of our own potential the most. So when we can think of those blockages and what it is, it's diving deep, doing the shadow work, removing it, because life is going to get hard sometimes, and focusing on that thing that you feel so connected to your purpose. Like this, I'm nudged, this is bigger than me, this is a whole, So for Liliana, I'd really just want her to remember that, no one is perfect, and always push forward even when things get super hard. I didn't know what I was going to do after a hurricane. I didn't know where I was going to work. There wasn't cruise ships coming in. Then COVID happened. It was like, we are multi-talented. We're not made to do one thing. We're not designed to act one way. I have several flavors to my personality. With different people, I have different accents. I wear different outfits at different places. I could be businesswoman. I could be, beach bum. I could be sleepy. I could be, all dressed up. I could be nightclub. We're limitless, and as long as you remember that and don't put yourself in a box and don't ever let other people put you in a box, there's nothing you can't do.
I love that. What a beautiful message, especially in a time where women are constantly given glass ceilings of their abilities and their potential.
Feminine.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for allowing me to interview you.
Gabby.
And I had to hold back my tears the whole time because I'm like, oh, Megan has me in my emotions.
Cry, but I think I talked about it so much. I actually cried before this interview a little because I didn't know what you were going to ask me. So
I hope it wasn't anything too hard.
No, I think that whatever is meant to be will be. You asked what needed to be heard, and whatever came out was bigger than me. It needed to be heard.
Yeah.
Gabby, thank you so much for interviewing me.
No, thank you.
I have something for you. You let me share my warrior story, and we're gonna do yours, but you are the person who interviewed me and offered. So we got you a warrior shirt.
Oh my gosh.
So you are a warrior too, which is why a warrior had to interview a warrior. It has the logo in the back. And it has I am Gabby because you're a warrior. So remember, I am Gabby, warrior.
I'm gonna wear this tomorrow at work.
And you just tell everyone. Subscribe, like, comment, and share to Moments with Island Sweetheart. I hope my story helps someone. If I touch even one life, that's the goal. And
you touch mine.
Thank you. Of course. And whoever has a story, I am here for it. Leave a comment, DM me, message me. And I want to hear your story because it could help someone or many people. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.